Gang. Hello, it is me, Riley Nicole Studios, and welcome to a new potential series that I may or may not be starting on my channel depending on how well it does. This is episode possibly 1 or possibly just single video. And today, I am going to be, okay, I guess basically, oh my god, I freaking... This series is going to consist of a total of maybe 5 episodes. It's basically going to be a bunch of tutorial videos with voice acting tips and writing tips and editing tips, and at the end, I might actually do a how to set up a CCC project, which is highly requested, so I mean, watch the series and support it so we can get to that point. Anyways, the first point of the series that we're going to be going over is how to write a good series. Not that I'd really know that, but I'm gonna pretend I do and give you some tips. So, as most of you know, my long-running series on my channel is called Talent Show of Terror, and it's a Danganronpa-inspired mystery series. I've been writing for a long time, and I've come across a lot of do's and don'ts, so I've set up a small list of both for you. Although I will be narrating most of the video, I'm going to just leave this part up on the screen for a few seconds, and you can pause it if you want to read it over, but here is the do's and don'ts list that I made. It's quite simple, but that's because it's not really the main focus of this video. Okay, so now I'm going to start on part 1, which is getting the basic idea. When writing series, the first thing you need to do is come up with the basic concept. This includes things such as the setting, which is apocalyptic, fantasy, modern, etc., genre, basic plot, and so forth. So, let's come up with a series now. I'm going to create a world in a fantasy land filled with magic. There are a bunch of different basic ideas to choose from, so I've decided to go with zodiac signs. The genre for this is obviously going to be fantasy, but I also want mixes of romance, mystery, and folktale in there as well. For the plot, I'm just going to start very broad and write a series where each zodiac sign has its own kingdom, and the kingdom leaders have to band together to face a grave danger. As of now, I neither know what goes on in the kingdoms, who runs them, or what the danger is, but that's what we can flesh out now that we have the basic idea. Let's say that each kingdom is run by the perfect zodiac of said region, or the one who has the closest percentage match to their description. Maybe it'll be scored by a test. Now I'll add some smaller rules. Like, each kingdom ruler will become a leader once they're 18. If people in a kingdom have a child born outside of their sign, they're separated from their parents forever and brought to the other kingdoms, and each sign must marry another sign compatible with them, and they will be paired up via a nationwide test. You can already see some possible reasons for an antagonist here, because there are some things that most people probably wouldn't like the idea of. But now that we've started to build out our world more, and now that we've come up with our premise, it's time to come up with our characters. Since I want to start the story right as the new leaders are coming in and turning 18 and such, I'll need at least 12 characters for that. Then some for the former leaders, which makes 24, and the antagonist. Some tips for making a good character include: every character needs to have a motive for their actions, every character must overcome some sort of hurdle and develop, whether it be for the better or worse, and every character must be three-dimensional. This means taking their traits and sometimes contradicting them. For example, a peppy character that suffers from a fear of being sad, so they always act happy because they worry something will go wrong if they don't. A good way to shape a character is to think of how they'd react in different situations, how they act when they feel certain emotions, their best and worst traits, how they get along with others, and etc. I think you get my point. It also helps to kind of build their family life, like are they rich or are they poor, do they come from a broken home, or etc., you know. Backstories help a lot too. The final thing I'm going to be talking about for this video is storyboarding. And if you want to make a good series, it's important to think of a resolution early on. Lots of TV sitcoms that run for season after season will often become stale because the plot will drag on and no development will occur. For this Zodiac story, the main basis I need is introduction, which is the character introductions, introducing the world that I've made and the basic premise of the story. Then there's rising action, which is where you start to introduce the problem, develop the characters and setting, and bring in the story building. This is where the majority of your story will take place. Next is the climax, which is the peak of the series, and where the mystery is revealed or the obstacle is reached, but it isn't necessarily overcome. The most intense part of the story is probably the climax, i.e. an example is revealing the Talent Show of Terror mastermind. That would be the climax. Then the falling action is where the story will begin to wrap up. Here you can decide who quote-unquote wins or loses, and the main problems are solved. The final part is the conclusion, which is kind of like an epilogue, and it's where things go back to how they were, but somewhat different. Now that the problem is resolved, the setting may have shifted, and your characters have a newfound development, so obviously it's not just gonna be like, oh, I'm still obsessed with cheese or I don't know. I scripted everything except for that part. So that's all for this episode, but if you enjoyed it and want to see more, please let me know below. Feel free to comment if you have any questions, and I hope this helped. Peace!